Hello everyone, welcome to our today's presentation. We are Group 5. I am Yang Taisheng. I will going to discuss about our group outline and the company background. Now, here's an outline of what we will present. Firstly, we will discuss company background. Secondly, we will introduce business model counts. Thirdly, we will have some recommendation to Apple company. Fourthly, we will have stock market analysis and give investor some recommendations. Here is Apple company background. Apple designs, manufactures, and markets smartphones, personal computers, tablets, wearables, and accessories, and sells a variety of related services. Apple company main strategy is ensure the continued and timely introduction of innovative new products, services, and technologies to the marketplace, and financial performance. And they have some stock details about Apple company CIK code and exchange code. The Apple stock strategy is technology. Next, Apple main products have MacBook Air and Pro, iMac, Mac Mini, Mac Studio, Mac Pro, iPhone, iPhone Pro, iPhone Max, and iPhone SE, iPad, iPad Pro, iPad Mini, iPad Air, and iPad. Others have AirPods, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and HomePod Mini. Next, Wang Shumei will discuss business model counts.
Let me introduce the business model canvas. So first is the key partner, which is a supplier and partner guarantees for the effective operation. Apple's supply chain is manufactured by people around the world in more than 50 countries and regions, and including the important corporation and integrate content providers, like such as Sony, Warner, Universal, and other record companies, and also the other 5 major publishing giants. And then the key activities is the important business models necessary for successful operation. And Apple's key activities is the shift from a very single computer maker to a diversified providers of mobile devices, like the software development and the quality control and the platform operation and so on. And then the key resources is the resources required to run the pattern, and it's including the physical assets and the visual resources. The cost structure, it can be divided into online and offline platforms, and maintain the human cost of repairing mobile phone hardware and software development. The Apple's value proposition is the products or services that create value for customers. And its most important value is people first implement to people. And there are so many products, including iPhone, iPad, and so on, and so also the home technical support. The Apple's customer relationship is including the products and customer offerings of Apple Care services, and also the extensive marketing from the whole world, like the hunger marketing and event marketing, educational concessions, and also the new products launch event. The Apple's channel assets can also divide it into online platform and offline platforms. The Apple's customer segmentation is the individual and enterprises and universities, and also the application developer. And the last one is the revenue streams, which is a business earns by providing a value proposition to its customers. It's including the sales of various products, the return on investment, and also the software subscription fee. And then I will introduce some Apple's potential problems and also give some recommendations. So first, Apple can successfully develop and launch of new technology products lines using its strong brand image and rapid innovation process. And second, the first is that after the pandemic, people can pay more attention to health and can develop new product lines or technologies. And Apple could also add the ability to check if the breathing is normal through the iWatch. And the last one is that Apple can expand its e-commerce and the to make more sales. And like it can advising through the live streaming or short videos. Okay, now let's let Gabi and Jaka report the last part for us.
Now we're done discussing the business model of Apple as well as some recommendations based on those that were previously discussed. And now me and Gabby will be presenting the stock market analysis for Apple as a key player in the technology industry utilizing Python. Next slide, please.
So just by looking at the closing prices and trading volume of Apple on the left versus Microsoft on the right, they have relatively similar patterns. However, Apple has much lower trading volume fluctuation compared to Microsoft, which can mean that there may be lower market interest or attention to Apple. This may be due to a lack of significant news or developments for the company, or simply due to investors shifting their attention towards other stocks. On the other hand, low trading volume can sometimes be a positive sign that the stock has a steady stream of buyers and sellers over time. This creates a more stable and predictable trading environment, as investors are not engaging in rapid buying or selling activity that can create market volatility.
Okay, next slide, please. So for the benchmarking, we just retrieved this from Yahoo Finance as of February 2023. Apple is compared against Microsoft and Nvidia as they are the leading companies in the technology industry, and this is based on their marketing cap as seen in the heat map provided on the right. And most comparisons will be done against Microsoft since it follows Apple in terms of market cap, and later on we will see that it has a more similar performance with Apple stocks. Lastly, we use 2021 to 2022 as the time series for the most updated closing prices. Next slide, please. Okay, so with that, we just begin here with the codes where we first laid out the closing prices for Apple, Microsoft, and Nvidia respectively. And we also set the time series here for the period 2021 to 2022. Next slide, please. Okay, so using simple returns, we can see the movement of Apple stock prices, the one in the blue line, compared to Microsoft, the orange line, and Nvidia, the green line. And next slide, please. So for a more reliable presentation, we also use the logarithmic returns. So focusing on Apple here, we can see that there are similar observations regarding the price and volatility using logarithmic returns analysis as compared with the simple returns mentioned earlier. And it can also be traced back to what Gabby has mentioned earlier regarding the volatility of its prices. Next slide, please. Next, for the summary statistics and regression, first we just summarize here on the right the daily and monthly returns. And we can see here that the ranking from the largest standard deviation to the least is always NVIDIA, Apple, and Microsoft, whether daily or monthly. And next slide, please. So the monthly returns were just plotted here, and this also corresponds with the plotted returns for both simple and logarithmic illustrated earlier. With this, we can now more or less have a preferred stock to invest to, considering our risk appetite as investors. But again, the analysis does not end here. Next slide, please. So onto the regression analysis, we just have here the codes wherein we just laid out everything basically for the regression analysis. We only used Apple and Microsoft from here moving forward for simplicity purposes, and we shall compare these against the Hang Seng Index, which is the main indicator of the overall performance in Hong Kong. Overall market performance in Hong Kong, rather. Next slide, please. So with this, we just have the results of the OLS regression. First, for Apple against HSI. So we'll have a minute or two to take a look at this. Okay, and then next slide, please. We just have here the plot of the regression analysis earlier for, this is for Apple against HSI still. Okay, I think we can proceed with the next slide. Meanwhile, this is the results of the OLS regression for Microsoft against HSI. Again, a moment to take a look at the results in here. Later on, this will all be summarized for just the relevant values. Next slide, please. And this is the plot of the OLS regression for Microsoft against the Hang Seng Index. Okay, that being said, I think we can summarize the relevant values for the analysis. Next slide, please. So our benchmarking OLS regression analysis results are as follows. So for the beta or the systematic risk, for Apple, we have a value of 0.0717, and for Microsoft, we have 0.002. And for the adjusted R squared, we have 0.606 for Apple and negative 0.001 for Microsoft. Upon extra research, I've learned that it is possible to have a negative adjusted R squared. And we just have here the bar chart on the right for further reference. So our inferences regarding these values, first for the beta, we can say that there is a larger systematic risk, yet higher returns for Apple when compared to Microsoft only. But of course, this is a different case when it is compared against NVIDIA. But considering only those two, Apple has the slightly larger systematic risk, yet higher returns. And lastly, the market model is a better fit for Apple since the adjusted R squared results is higher for Apple. Next slide, please.
And with that brings us to our stock recommendation for Apple. So Apple's low fluctuations in trading volume, as said earlier, are indicative of low market interest in Apple, or that Apple stock is stable and predictable. This, alongside the lower comparative returns and comparative volatility as shown by previous analyses, are evidence that Apple is going through a relatively stable period. It also has relatively similar regression as Microsoft when plotted against HSI. As such, we recommend Apple to little or low risk tolerant investors who believe in Apple's direction as a company and future growth, as investments made at this time will have little and lower returns than previous months or similar companies. Those with higher risk tolerance are advised to invest in other stocks that have higher potential returns. And that ends our presentation. Once again, we are Group 5 presenting Apple. Thank you for listening. We will now open the floor for questions.